Ooh. Caitlyn Clark is not happy. Caitlyn Clark absolutely slammed Stephanie White for continuing to sub her out. She's sick and tired of Stephanie White's sabotage. She's sick and tired of...
Right there in front of every camera in the room, she said it straight to his face. Her own coach, no holding back. It happened last night in San Francisco when Caitlyn Clark finally spoke the words everyone had been waiting to hear, and the league is still buzzing about it. The Fever dropped a tough 1 to Golden State, down by 13. Clark took a hard hit to the leg. No whistle, no foul call, and ESPN's cameras caught every second of what came next.
Gatling is giving Caitlyn Clark a very long leash on the way she's reacting, and sometimes...
Now that's frustration. That is just pure frustration.
You just gotta let the player...
Cameras weren't ready for what came next. This wasn't a clip cut together by some drama channel. This came straight from ESPN itself, posted under their own name. Clark was livid after that missed call, walked off the court fuming, and didn't try to hide it one bit. There she was, the biggest name in the league, limping, shouting at the officials, before disappearing into the tunnel. And when reporters caught up to her at the podium, she still wasn't done. She went straight for the real problem.
To her defense, we've been seeing a lot of buffoonery from the WNBA referees. What would you do if somebody literally altering the way you play the game?
The officiating was one thing, but what she said about her own bench was something else entirely. Much colder, much more pointed. Because this was the night Caitlyn Clark stopped protecting everyone around her. Over the next few minutes, we'll go through her exact words about the refs, her exact words about her minutes, and the one line that called out Stephanie White without saying her name at all. We'll also cover the high five she didn't return and why Major League voices are now calling for a coaching change in Indiana. Every clip here is real. Every quote is verified. The evidence speaks for itself. Stick around, because this is the night it all came out. To get why this moment matters, you need the full picture of what Clark has quietly put up with. Honestly, the list reads like a highlight reel of red flags. A fist to the throat back on June 24th. She barely reacted, just got up and kept playing. An elbow that left a teammate bleeding. Ribs nearly injured in a hit just days ago. A technical foul for simply clapping. Confusing injury reports. Getting left off an anniversary poster. A 16-minute limit on her playing time. A rest day nobody quite believed. And through all of it, Clark stood at the mic and said almost nothing. Polite answers, credit to her teammates, praise for opponents. No complaints, even while fans online were losing their minds on her behalf. That's the whole reason her fan base is so loud. She won't fight for herself in public, so they do it for her. So when the player who's absorbed every hit, every slight, for 2 months straight, finally starts speaking up at a podium, that's not just emotion. That's a choice. Something changed last night in San Francisco, and anyone who's followed this story could feel it the second that press conference hit the internet. The most patient star in the sport had hit her limit, and she chose the moment, cameras rolling, to let it show. It started with the play that lit the fuse. Second quarter, Clark drives to the basket, gets caught with a knee from Kia Stokes, hits the floor hard, gets up limping, and no whistle. She heads to the tunnel trying to walk it off. But at the podium after the game, there was no polished, diplomatic answer this time. Here's exactly what she said, straight from the Fever's own post-game feed. No edits, no fan cuts.
God, that hurts. Like, the ref can't miss that, and then I have to play with a contusion in my leg the rest of the game. Like, it's ridiculous. Can't miss calls like that.
Did they give you an explanation right after when you...
She said I initiated the contact.
The referee's explanation? Clark initiated the contact. Sound familiar? Because that's almost word for word what officials said after Chelsea Gray banged into her ribs just 4 days before. 2 different games, 2 separate injuries, same tired excuse both times. Now she's playing on a bruised leg while her ribs are still taped up underneath. And once again, somehow, the story is that Clark brought it on herself. Black and white sports caught what she was shouting on the court right before she stormed off. And honestly, after 5 missed calls in a row, can you really blame her?
To be honest, the officials allowed...
She said F. I've been fouled 5 effing times. Give me a effing call. F. I got fouled.
0 whistles. 5 separate hits. A knee jammed straight into her quad. A painful bruise she'll be feeling for days. And all the officials gave her back was a shrug. On its own, that's just another entry in the officiating controversy that's been building for weeks now. But last night wasn't just about bad calls. Because when Caitlyn Clark sat down at that podium, the sharpest thing she said all night wasn't even aimed at the referees. And before you say every player complains about officiating, look closer at what's actually happening here. There's a phrase that keeps popping up whenever Clark gets hurt. She initiated the contact. That's what they said after Chelsea Gray banged into her ribs. That's what they said last night after the knee to her quad. Somehow, the player who draws more physical punishment than almost anyone in the league is the one being blamed for causing it, over and over again. We went through the officiating numbers in detail before, and nothing's changed. Clark is one of the most heavily guarded, high-usage players in basketball, yet she gets sent to the free throw line far less than the amount of contact she takes should allow. Even her own coach got asked about that "she initiated it" explanation after the game, and honestly, she could barely keep a straight face answering it. We'll get to that moment in a bit, because that reaction alone said more than words ever could. But here's the real issue. When officials use almost the exact same explanation for two separate injuries in back-to-back games, that's not a coincidence anymore. Fans have been quietly building a file on this for close to 2 months. Last night just added another page. And this time, it wasn't just fans pointing it out. Clark herself said something. The bruise on her leg did the rest of the talking. Then came a question that should have been completely harmless. A reporter asked what Golden State did defensively to make the night so difficult. Simple basketball question. But Clark didn't stay on Golden State for long. She turned it, almost immediately, into something about her own team. Listen to how she opened her answer. "It's hard. I think I played 10 minutes in the first half. I was struggling a little to find a flow." Then she gave Golden State their credit, said they're right in her face, probably the best defensive team in the league, that they do what they do well, that she had good looks that just didn't fall. But that opening line was the one that stuck. Nobody asked her about her minutes. Nobody brought up the rotation. She brought it up herself, completely unprompted, the very first thing out of her mouth. That's what frustration looks like when an athlete won't cross the line and rip into anyone directly, but still wants you to know exactly where the problem is. And she wasn't finished. A few seconds later, she said the line that's now being replayed everywhere, the one every Fever fan and every basketball account has been pulling clips of since it happened. "I thought I finally played with a bit more pace, a bit more burst, especially down the stretch in the fourth. But hopefully I don't have to keep playing 25 minutes. Hopefully I don't have to keep playing 25 minutes. Read that again. There's no hidden meaning to dig for. She said it plainly, at an official press conference, standing in front of every camera in the room. The best player on the team was openly hoping her coach's minutes restriction would go away. And she said it with a smile that somehow made it land even harder. So who's setting those minutes? Stephanie White, who spent the last 2 weeks publicly defending that restriction as part of some medical plan. Stephanie White again. Clark never said her coach's name once. She didn't have to. Everyone in that room, and everyone watching online afterward, knew exactly who she was talking about. Now put it next to the numbers, because the box score backs up every bit of that frustration. 4 for 14 from the field. 1 for 8 from three-point range. Just 13 points in a game where her entire team only managed 75. When you take a rhythm shooter and keep yanking her in and out in 3-minute stretches, this is exactly the kind of night you get. She never gets the chance to settle into anything. Then the third quarter happened, and it somehow got worse. The moment Stephanie White pulled Clark out of the game, with Indiana still within a single possession, Golden State's guard caught fire. 11 straight points, just like that, while Clark watched from the bench. And when she eventually came back and walked past her coach afterward, there was no high five, not even a glance in her direction. On its own, that moment means nothing. Players have off nights, coaches make decisions, body language gets read into all the time. But stack it next to everything else. The minutes comment, the rotation comment, the silence toward her own bench, and suddenly it's not an isolated moment anymore. It's a pattern. And that's really what makes last night different from every other frustrating night this season. Because up until now, Clark has handled every single one of these situations the exact same way. Silence. A closed fist near her throat back in June. She got up and said nothing. An elbow that left a teammate bleeding. Nothing. Chelsea Gray nearly catching her in the ribs days earlier. Nothing. A technical foul for simply clapping. Confusing injury reports nobody could quite explain. Getting left off a milestone poster. A minute's restriction she never publicly pushed back on. A rest day that raised eyebrows across the league. Every single time, she stood at a podium, gave the polished answer, praised her opponents, credited her teammates, and let millions of frustrated fans do the complaining for her. That restraint is exactly why her fan base has become so loud and so protective. She won't fight for herself out loud, so they've been doing it for her for months. Which is why last night matters so much. This wasn't Clark losing her cool. This was Clark, after 2 months of absorbing every hit and staying quiet through all of it, finally choosing her moment. And she chose it perfectly. Cameras rolling, every reporter in the room, nowhere for the answer to hide. She didn't yell. She didn't call anyone out by name. She didn't need to. She just said the quiet part loud enough for everyone to hear it, and then let the silence afterward do the rest. The most patient superstar in the sport reached her limit last night in San Francisco. And now the entire league is talking about it. The missed calls, the repeated excuse, the minutes, the coach, all of it. Whether this actually changes anything in Indiana is the real question now. Does Stephanie White adjust the rotation? Do the referees start calling the game differently? Or does this become just one more moment that gets talked about for a week and then quietly fades, the same way everything else has? That's the part nobody can answer yet. But one thing is certain. Caitlyn Clark just showed everyone exactly how much she's been holding back. And if you don't want to miss what happens next, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay locked in, because this story is far from over.